Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the virtual conference on Fourth World Literature organized by the Department of English and Research Center of Nesamani Memorial Christian College, Marthandam, in collaboration with Cape Comorin Trust and Cape Comorin Publishers, India. Each moment has its own beauty, a picture that was painted never before and never shall. Though the pandemic is raging, we are witnessing a moment of beauty and a wonder of that kind. I request Dr. M. Prabha Punyavadi, Head, Department of English and Research Center, NMCC, deliver the welcome address. Ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Anindya. Good morning, everybody. Honorable Correspondent and Principal of Nesamani Memorial Christian College, Dr. G.M. Joseph Dunstan, former Vice Chancellor, St. Joseph's University, Nagaland, India. Dr. R. Vashiki, Head of the Department of English, Manonmaniam Sundarnar University, Tirunelveli, Tamil Nadu. Dr. Sudhir Gao, former Vice Chancellor, MGM University, Aurangabad. The coordinators and advisory board of this conference, the organizing committee of this 3-day conference. I extend a warm greeting to you all on this virtual conference on Fourth World Literature on behalf of the Department of English, Nesamani Memorial Christian College and Cape Comorin Trust, India. I would like to take this opportunity to extend a warm welcome to our correspondent advocate Il Rajadurai and Dr. K. Paulraj, the principal of NMCC. They support us in many ways unimaginable, not only with their ideas, but with the execution of those ideas too, through moral support. Sirs, I extend my hearty welcome to you both on behalf of the Department of English NMCC and the Cape Comorin Trust, India. A dream doesn't become reality through magic. It takes sweat, determination, and hard work. Yes, it's true of Dr. R.S. Regent Silvest, President, Cape Comorin Trust of India. I extend a warm welcome to you, sir. It's my privilege to welcome Dr. G.M. Joseph Dunstan, former Vice Chancellor, St. Joseph University in Nagaland, India, an eminent scholar and an academician. This ideal orator will mesmerize us through his inaugural address. I extend a warm welcome to you, sir, on behalf of Nesamani Memorial Christian College and Cape Comorin Trust, India. I'm truly delighted to welcome Dr. Maharnisa Patam, Director, Tarabai Sinde Women's Study Center, Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar, Marathwada University, Aurangabad, India, who is really ready to motivate us through her presidential address. Hearty welcome to you, ma'am. I'm happy to welcome Dr. R. Vashiki, Head of the Department of English, Manonmaniam Sundarnar University, Tirunelveli, and Dr. Sudhir Gaurav, former Vice Chancellor, MGM University, Aurangabad, Maharashtra, India, who are going to grace the conference with their keynote address, the source of inspiration and motivation to all of us. Cordial welcome to you, ma'am. Hearty welcome to you, sir. If you love what, thank you, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am. If you love what you are doing, you will succeed. This is true of our organizing secretary, Dr. L.M. Samuel Nayagam. A warm welcome to you, sir. I take this opportunity to welcome our advisory board members and coordinators of this 3-day conference on Fourth World Literature. Hearty welcome to you all. I am happy to welcome each and every members of the organizing committee who are behind the screen with all their valuable suggestions and cooperation. Warm welcome to you all. the chairpersons of the technical sessions, and the paper presenters, I extend a cordial welcome to you too. I am extremely happy to welcome the esteemed audience of various places from India as well as outside India. I am sure this conference will enrich your knowledge. Expecting your future cooperation to grace our upcoming conferences and webinars, I extend a very warm welcome to you all once again on behalf of the Department of English and Research Center, Nesamani Memorial Christian College, Marthandam, and the Cape Comorin Trust, India. Have a nice time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the warm greetings. Today, we feel delighted to have Dr. G.M. Joseph Dunstan, former Vice Chancellor of St. Joseph University, Nagaland, India, to deliver the inaugural address. I consider it a privilege to introduce an eminent person like Dr. Dunstan. He was appointed Vice Chancellor of St. Joseph University, Nagaland, for a brief spell from 30th November 2016 to 20th June 2017. He was invited to take up this apex position to create the basic infrastructure for introducing the possible viable courses to cater to the needs of the tribal communities in Nagaland, and also to form the various councils and committees to steer the university on the right track. The Academic Council, Board of Studies for each department, and other co-curricular committees were formed in consultation with the Chancellor, the Prost Chancellor, and the Visitor, Honorable Governor of Nagaland, and other chief administrators in the field of education. At present, he works as the Director for Development and Professor of English in the Research Center, St. Jerome's College of Arts and Science, Anandanadar Kudiyiruppu, affiliated to MS University. From July 2017 to April 2018, he worked as a Principal and Director of JP Group of Institutions affiliated to MS University, Tirunelveli. In the campus, JP Engineering College, JP College of Education, St. Joseph Global School came under his purview of administration, and the activities were oriented towards the welfare of the youth. From 2013 to 16, he served as the director of DMI College of Engineering and Loyola Institute of Engineering, Chennai, taking care of the HR department and students' affairs. In both the colleges, among other things, he worked strenuously to train the faculty to go for NAC and NBA accreditations. In March 2009, he took over as the principal of St. John's College of Arts and Science, Ammandivale, Kanyakumari district, affiliated to MS University, Tirunelveli. During his tenure as the principal, he was given the complete autonomy to introduce courses on the need basis. The institution flourished to become a reputed one in a short span of time in Manonmaniam Sundarnar University area. In 2016, he was made the director of Francis Xavier Engineering College, Tirunelveli. Until 2009, he was in full control of the HR management. The welfare of the student community came under his domain as well in the SCAD group of institutions. Prior to the above assignment, he served as the head of the Department of English and vice principal of St. Jude's College, Thutur, taking care of the curricular and co-curricular activities of the college, much to the complete satisfaction of the management, staff, and students. As a coordinator of NAC preparation committee, he strove hard to get the college accredited. Though a rural college started for the welfare of the rural first-generation learners, the entire team in St. Jude's worked relentlessly to get B+ in the first cycle of accreditation. If I try to give or say more about him, I wouldn't get enough time to go on with this. He is also a trainer and a motivational speaker, and he has been an inspiration to many young minds. With these words, I request Dr. Joseph Dunstan to deliver the inaugural address. Now, sir.
Good morning to everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for the very long introduction, and Nithya.
Thank you, sir. But I think
It's a very long
I
introduction.
would not have done justice to you if I had not said enough. I couldn't leave. Even though I left a lot of things, it became
Anyway,
quite long.
It's pretty long. Fine. Let me come to the business right. I am extremely happy to be the part of this international virtual conference on Fourth World Literature organized by the Department of English and the Research Center of Nesamani Memorial Christian College, Marthandam, and Comrin, Cape Comrin Trust and Cape Comrin Publishers, India. Dear my bosom friend, the correspondent, Advocate Rajit Roy, and my very close friend, Dr. Pal Raj, the principal of the college, Dr. Prabha Niyavadi, the head of the department, my friend, Professor T.B. Thomas, and other organizers, especially Dr. Regin Sylvest, who gave me the opportunity to give the inaugural address for this. My happiness is double-fold because I feel that I share the platform with the veteran speakers like Dr. Mehrunisa Patam, my loving sister, Dr. Vasi, the head of the Department of English, Manon Maniam Sundarnath University, Dr. Sudhir, the former Vice Chancellor from Aurangabad, other resource persons, and a scholarly audience to this Fourth World Literature Conference. It was just 2 days back, Dr. Regin Silvers called me and he said whether it's possible for me to give the inaugural address. I said, okay. Though it's a busy day for me today, I said, fine, I'll do it for you. And I also, feel happy because, I am able to meet some of my veteran scholars in Fourth World Literature. Fourth World Literature refers to the writings of the native people living in a land that has been taken over by non-natives. Fourth World is a term which came into use following the formation of World Council of Indigenous People, WCIP, in 1972. Fourth World people are the original indigenous people or inhabitants who existed before Europeans or other colonizers who invaded, occupied, or otherwise conquered and settled their homelands. In other words, Fourth World Literature declared literary, cultural, and intellectual independence of the natives, aboriginals, and Dalits. We can even say that it is the contemporary wisdom aligned with the ancient world. It's a glorious wisdom in the culture of the Fourth World. Some scholars aver that Fourth World should be called the First World because it has paved the way for a modern human civilization of the Fourth World. We need Fourth World literature because we need to connect with the large sections of natives who still remain unconnected with the modern world. Under this category, I would like to bring native people of America, Aboriginals of Australia, Maoris of New Zealand, First Nations of Canada, tribals of India, tribals of South Asian region, and Dalits. All these people come under Fourth World literature. See, the native people of America, we can start with the famous book by Gordon Brotherston, Book of the Fourth World, reading the Native Americas through their literature. This book argues that American continent became an fourth world, and it started with the rich heritage of the natives. The book explores the landscapes and other chronologies of the events of the fourth world. This was the pioneering work projecting the American native literature. The Aboriginal representatives brought out the consciousness of the fourth world literature. This book reflects the socio-economic, literary, and cultural circumstances that affected the natives of America. The book also enriches our knowledge of colonization, post-colonialism, and European cultural social history. It also brings out the Marxian divisions of labor. It talks about that also in that book. There are many other writers who brought out the characteristics of the Native American literature, which could be even termed Native American Renaissance. Among other writers, I would like to mention Scott Momaday, whose novels House Made of Dawn, The Way to Rainy Mountain, The Ancient Child, In the Presence of the Sun, Stories and Poems. All these works very closely discuss the issues of ethnicity, nativity, culture, land, marginalization, displacement, language, and cultural conflict. So this is in short about Native American literature, the fourth world literature. As far as Australia's fourth world literature is concerned, we can take up Adam Shoemaker's Black Words, White Page, Aboriginal Literature, which has presented Aboriginal literature as the fourth world literature of Australia. Indigenous Australian literature abounds in fiction, plays, poems, and other works. In fact, David Unaipen, who was from 1872 to 1967, was the first Aboriginal writer to be published. He started the career of the Aboriginal writing. Aboriginal women writers also are also well represented in the fourth world literature of Australia. These Aboriginal literatures discuss self-control, self-reliance, courage, kinship, empathy, a sense of oneness, reverence for land and the country. Sally Morgan, I think one of my scholars is doing research on that Sally Morgan's book. Marcia Langton, Melissa Lukashenko, Neil Pearson, Jack Davies, Kevin Kilbert are some of the leading Australian Indigenous writers. There are many writers, but still I just note some of the prominent writers here. New Zealand literature is largely oral. It's oral literature and also written, and they are the product of Maori's culture. This culture had a very strong oral tradition. The writers had explored, once again, the theme of landscape, isolation, and emerging New Zealand national identity. Of course, if you see in all the aboriginal writings and the native writings, you find there is a thirst for that identity in all the literature. Some of the writers are Frank Surgeons, Patricia Grace, Eleanor Catton, James Baxter, Roger Hall, and so on. Here also, I just take some of the important writers just to give the representation of the New Zealand Maoris writing. As for the Canadian indigenous writing is concerned, George Manuel's book, The Fourth World, An Indian Reality, brings out the history of shared experience among the indigenous communities of the world who was struggling for self-determination and identity once again. George Manuel, undertook a very long world tour and then felt the need for having a community literature. In that book, he talks about that. Indigenous people of Canada are culturally diverse. Please remember that. Each group has its own literature, language, and culture. Edwards, in fact, Janet Armstrong, Brennan Edwards, Greg Youngling, Lee Miracle, Thompson Highway are some of the prominent writers of Canadian indigenous writing. The tribal literature of India is rich in its cultural heritage. Though there is a big diversity, we could see unity in the writings. Though it's based on the oral traditions, of course, and there are lots of cultural heritages which are being written as tribal literature. There are lots of books depicting the oral culture of the tribals, starting from Northeast. Still I was in Nagaland, I know the Temsula Awo, Esther and Kure and all those people. Temsula Awo was my board of governor in the university, and I could discuss many things about the culture, the what you call the warring instinct in the people, the tribals of the Nagas. And this is what they have written in their books, right? And then G.N. Devi, his book, Painted Words, an anthology of tribal literature, is a case in point, because it really that all the tribal literature. Of course, there are lots of other books, plenty of books, which are which bring out the essence of the tribal literature. If you come to the South, Kerala, of course, Janu, C.K. Janu, The Mother Forest. It's a wonderful work. That has been even translated in various languages, many languages. So we are able to understand the tribal culture in these works. Devi speaks this way: the tribal literature speak to our souls and has the power to dissolve the borders. Dalit literature originated in Marathi language in 1960 and then soon appeared in other languages, Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, Hindi, and so on. In fact, Om Prakash, Valmiki, B.R. Ambedkar, and other host of writers, Jyotibai Phule, and all those people started contributing towards Dalit literature. The word Dalit was used for the first time by Jyotirao Phule in 19th century. And after that, lots of Dalit writings have come up. But some scholars today debate whether Dalit literature should be brought under the indigenous writing, because they argue that Dalit literature, in fact, I have also done my research in Dalit literature and Black American literature. I have taken up Pama, Sivakami, right, and other writers. I I have a feeling, it's a kind of a discourse of oppression. Whether we should bring it under indigenous writing. So that's the debate which is still going on. But I have a feeling that Dalit literature has already come into the mainstream literature, but still in India, we have some problem. Recently, in Delhi University, they dropped Bhageshwar and Bama and all that. I mean, still, it has to travel in the mainstream literature, and they have established themselves as the mainstream literature of India. So, with these words, I would like to tell all of you that this 3-day international virtual conference of Fourth World Literature should have a lot of deliberations to see that we should have a separate identity for indigenous literature, and the scholars should deliberate in such a way, meditate in such a way. You should be able to add glorious pages to the Fourth World Literature. I request all the scholars who come as an audience here to probe further, to add, open new vistas in the Fourth World Literature. With this, may I have the pleasure of inaugurating this virtual conference on the 3-day workshop on Fourth World Literature. Thank you very much for the chance. Yes. Annie, I have finished my inaugural address. Do you hear me? That.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the inspiring inaugural speech. It has given a very good start to the virtual conference. We thank you from the bottom of our heart, Dr. Dunstan. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Next is the role of Dr. R. Vasuki. She is the head of the Department of English, Manon Manian Sundarnar University, Tirunelveli. She serves as the director of Center for Languages, MS University, and also the director of Center for Technical and Academic Writing. She is also the mentor of Mano Constantine College, Nagalapuram. Her area of interest are comparative literature, women's studies, I should have gone in for the presidential address before getting to the keynote speakers. Sorry for that. Now it's presidential address by Dr. Nisha Patam, and I feel very glad to introduce her. Dr. Nisha Patam is presently working as Associate Professor, Department of English, Aurangabad, Maharashtra State, India. She has more than 17 years of teaching and research experience. She has published nearly 37 research papers in national and international journals. She has participated in nearly 97 national and international conferences, seminars, workshops, symposiums, and presented research papers. She was appointed as an external examiner by various universities, and as a resource person, she has delivered lectures at refresher, orientation, short-term courses, and pre-PhD coursework. She has also designed various courses for postgraduate and MPhil courses. She is working on various national and international journals as an editorial board member and member of review committee. She has coordinated various activities for postgraduate, MPhil, and PhD students. She was the coordinator for the Micro Scholarship Language Access Program organized by USAFI, USA. She has completed minor and major research projects sponsored by UGC and ICSSR New Delhi. Currently, she has completed a sponsored research project on digital feminism, a study in Sanskrit, English, and Urdu literature, and has coined a new term called as Indian digital feminism. 18 students are awarded MPhil degrees and 3 students with PhD degrees under her supervision. Their areas of interest are post-colonial studies, resistance discourses, feminist discourses, English language teaching, critical theory, discourse studies, and so on. She has completed her research under the supervision of Dr. A. G. Khan entitled Resistance Discourses, a study in the fiction of Farida Karodia, Meher Pestanji, and Kaveri Nambizan. Dr. Patam, we are very glad to have you here, and I invite you to give the presidential address. Now, ma'am.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. You're audible. I can hear you.
Very good morning to one and all. I am singularly honored to be the part of a 3-day international virtual conference on Fourth World Literature, jointly organized by the Department of English and Research Center, NMC College, Martadan, Kanyakumari, Tamil Nadu, India, and Cape Comorin Trust, India, and Cape Comorin Publisher, again India. I am immensely pleased to be a part of such an intellectual august gathering of such stalwarts like the former Vice Chancellors, Dr. G.M. Joseph Johnston and Professor Sudhir Gawani, sir, faculty members and research scholars. Before 2 days, I received a call from Dr. Sylvest requesting me to give the presidential address, and I agreed for the same. I am working as a professor in the Department of English, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Marathwada University, Aurangabad, and 4 students, they have been awarded PhD under my supervision, and 18 students with MPhil. Thank you so much for giving such a beautiful introduction of mine. Let me begin with a few questions. As the students and teachers of Fourth World, we are well aware of these text movements and writings and how the Fourth World literature came into existence, which has been very in a very relevant way, which has been already focused by Dr. Joseph from his in his inaugural address. Now, there are a few questions with which I would start, like who are known as the aboriginals, those inhabiting or existing in a land from the earliest time or before the arrival of the colonialist are termed as indigenous. We know the colonizers like the Spanish, the British, the French, and the others. Now, where do we locate Fourth World literature? So, literature written by native people living in a land that has been taken over by non-natives, those who are not the inhabitants of that particular land. Now, the next question is how the term Fourth World came into existence. So, Fourth World is a term that came into literary circles following the formation of World Council of Indigenous Peoples. Again, that has been mentioned by Professor Joseph, which is abbreviated as WCIP in 1972. who these people are. Fourth world people are the original indigenous inhabitants, those who existed before European or other colonizers invaded, occupied, or otherwise conquered and settled their homelands. Now, who are included under the fourth world? Who are these countries? So, native people of America, Aboriginal of Australia, Maoris of New Zealand, First Nations of Canada, Dalits. Again, there is a controversy, the debates that have been going on whether they need to be included under the indigenous, which has again rightly pointed out by Professor Joseph. Tribes of India, where he also mentioned about the G.N. Devi, tribes of India, are considered as people of fourth world. Now, when we move on to the significant text, like we have George Manuel, 1921 to 1989, powerful leader of Canada who advocated the political unification of indigenous people across the globe by the formation of the Fourth World Movement and gave prominence to the concept of Fourth World. We do have texts like The Fourth World and Indian Reality, 1974. We do have Adam Shoemaker's comprehensive account of the Aboriginal literature in Australia with Black Words, White Page, Aboriginal literature that was 1929 to 1988. Again, we have Gordon Brotherston's book of the Fourth World Reading, the Native Americans through the literature, that is 1992, as American continent as the fourth world continent. We also have Anthony Hall's The American Empire and the Fourth World, The Bowl with One Spoon, 2005, and also Raja Shekhar Peteti's Exploring Fourth World Literature, Tribals, Adivasis, and Dalits, whether India, again in that particular context, it was discussed India to be the part of the fourth world. Now, my basic arguments that I would like to develop is, where do we locate different disciplines in the post-pandemic period if we discourse to situate the fourth world literature in various disciplines like cultural studies, Black studies, post-colonial studies, anthropology, linguistic studies, and so on and so forth? How do we contextualize the fourth world literature in the post-pandemic period? So there is a need to relocate the existing disciplines and all the literatures. They can be brought under the broad umbrella term that is post-pandemic global literature, where there is a possibility to situate the fourth world literature. One cannot deny the rupture that took place in arts, literature, social, political, economic, historical, and other linguistic and so and so areas to mention. So in these kind of conferences and seminars, we need to address such questions that we need to address such questions once again that needs an immediate attention. On one hand, we had the unpreparedness of the global village to tackle the pandemic situation. And on the other, the digital platform is busy in creating a rift in the name of communal hatred. We do have a lot of literature that emerge in the name of post-pandemic literature. And I personally believe that fourth world literature can't be a scapegoat in this. It is, and it has to be relocated in the mainstream literature in the name of post-pandemic literature. And the very reason is the failure of modernization, capitalism, and globalization, where under these jargon terms, there was and is a systematic exploitation of the indigenous, the natives, the nomadics, tribes, Dalits, and so on and so forth. I personally believe that instead of protest or resistance to marginalization, the fourth world countries and the literature produced by these countries should be relocated, rediscovered, and once again reformulated in the era of globalization as a part of mainstream literature, and liberate the complete discourse from the entanglements, like we divide the world, the global village, into first world, second world, third world, and now the fourth world. So there is a need to liberate these from these kind of entanglements of the first, second, third, and fourth, and rather relocate all these literatures as post-pandemic global literature. To highlight few important texts that we have Lawrence Wrights, who is an American writer, recipient of Pulitzer Prize. The name of that text is entitled as The End of October 2020. And another text is The Plague Year, America in the Time of COVID 2021. We also have No Land's People, the untold story of Assam's NRC crisis by Abhishek Saha, or the pandemic poems in the volumes that are being published by Cape Comorin Publishers. And the list goes on. There are many texts in different genres of literatures like prose, poetry, drama, fiction, and so on and so forth. And these have been included under the broad umbrella term. I mean to say that's the basic argument that I would like to make it over here. And I think in these 3 days deliberations and discussions, a fruitful thought should emerge, and it is high time to relocate these literatures. We also have a book entitled The Indigenous World 2020, which is the 34th edition, and the executive director is Catherine Wessendorf. So this book has been published with the financial support of the Danish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's near about 784 pages, and the book is published in April 2020. Again, there is another book which is published in April 2021, The Indigenous World. The title of that text is The Indigenous World. So this book is divided. I'm talking about the April 2020 text. So this book is divided into 3 parts. The first part deals with region and country reports, Africa, Asia, Central and South of America, and the Caribbean, the Arctic, Central and Eastern Europe, Russian Federation, Central Asia and Transcaucasia, North America, the Pacific, and the part 2 deals with international processes and initiatives. Part 3, it deals with the general information on that. So if the indigenous people, they constitute 5% of world's population, so they, at the same time, they protect 80% of planets biodiversity. So they are not only the guardians of the forest, but at the same time, they are also the guardians of the rivers, the seas, oceans, ice, peatlands, deserts, prairies, savannas, hills, and mountains. So they have cultivated indigenous knowledge, systems that are nature-based and honor the complex interdependence of all forms of life, which is the root of success for sustainable management of their resources and ecosystem in which each and everyone exists. Global issues and challenges that are related to climate change, global warming, melting of glaciers, they can't be a part of negligence. At the same time, gender issues, women and children's issues, and challenges, they also needs an urgent attention. What about the representation? What about the resistance? What about the representation discourses about the women and children of the fourth world, if we put into that particular category? Let me again come back to the book that I talked about, The Indigenous World 2020. There are so many countries that are being included, and it is a detailed analysis of it. In Africa, countries like Algeria, Botswana, then you have Burundi, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Ethiopia, Gabon, Kenya, Libya, Mali, Morocco, Namibia, Niger, Republic of Congo, South Africa, Tunisia, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. In Asia, we have countries like Bangladesh, Cambodia, China, India, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, Myanmar, Nepal, Philippines, Taiwan, and Thailand. And in Central and South America and the Caribbean, we have countries like Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, French Guiana, Guatemala, Mexico, Panama, and the list goes on, and even Venezuela. In the Arctic, we have Unit, Nunavut, Kalalit Nunat, that is Greenland, Sapmi. In Central and Eastern Europe, we have the Russian Federation, like Central Asia and Transcaucasia. We have Israel, Palestine, and Russian Federation. In North America, we have Canada and USA, that is United States of America. In Pacific, we have New Zealand, Australia, French Polynesia, Hawaii, and Papua New Geneva. These many countries are now included under the broad umbrella term of indigenous world. So we need to be updated and upgraded with these kind of new happenings, the new innovative ways in which the knowledge of the world is taking place. So it speaks about the percentage of the indigenous population, indigenous people that contributes, and it also talks about the kind of occupation, their living habits, and so on and so forth. There are now various international processes and initiatives like the Indigenous Data Sovereignty, Indigenous Women at the Commission on the Status of Women, abbreviated as ICSW, International Fund for Agricultural Development, UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the list goes on, like the World Intellectual Property Organization, and many more are added in the list for the growth, development, and empowerment of the indigenous population and masses. Another very significant and important issue is related to the preservation of the language. I would be failing in my duty if I don't mention the importance of the languages and why it is important to preserve these languages. So another very significant and important issue is related to the preservation of the language of these indigenous people. We have now 7,000 language spoken as endangered language as declared by UNESCO. And it is said that by the end of the century, there would be 3,000 languages that are going to die. Now, even the number would have increased. We also know that we have celebrated the 2019 was the International Year of Indigenous Languages that focus on thousands of languages as endangered languages. So we also need to focus on these dying language. With the death of a language, there is a systematic death of culture and literature too, with other socio-political, economical, and geographical and spatial aspects. So it is observed that by end of this century, we may lose 3,000 languages. So obviously we are going to lose their literature and their culture and so on and so forth. So to keep alive literature, we need to preserve these languages too. As long as the speakers use language, read, write, listen, and speak the language, that particular language, so it can't die, or there cannot be a death of such a language. So such a literature, such a culture, not only this, but with it, socio-political, historical, and other aspects too. I think, having said this, I would conclude my presidential address with, like, we are human beings first and we are human beings last. Let us work together towards constructive ideology that leads towards humanity. So, and it is through these kind of seminars, these kind of conferences, intellectual gatherings, that we can promote, protect, and defend these endangered languages, literatures, and human masses in general, and humanity in particular. So we all need to work towards constructive ideology that leads towards constructive humanities and save us from the destructive, dominant, hegemonic ideologies. I am once again thankful to Dr. Sylvest for giving me this opportunity to share my views on in form of presidential address. Thank you. Thank you very much.